Hi friends, it's Miss Hilton. This week we are learning all about trees. What kind of trees do you like? I like trees that have a big trunk so I can climb them. And I like trees with a lot of beautiful leaves. Today we're going to read this book titled A Grand Old Tree. The words in this book were written by author Mary Newell de Pamela. This is the front cover of our book. It has a tree on it and some animals. This is the back cover of our book. Let's open it up and see if we can find our title page. Here it is, A Grand Old Tree, written by Mary Newell de Pamela. Once there was a grand old tree. Her roots sank deep into the earth. Her arms reached high into the sky. She was home to many creatures. What kind of animals could live in a tree? Birds nested among her branches. Squirrels scurried through her leaves. Caterpillars and ladybugs crawled about. The grand old tree flowered. It bore fruit. That means it grew fruit. And sowed seeds. I'm noticing that the seeds are blowing in the wind. I notice a squirrel digging a hole and putting a seed in it. She had many children. What do you think it means by she had many children? They changed the landscape for miles around, perhaps even farther than the old tree knew. Her seeds must have grown their own bigger trees. The grand old tree lived a long, long time. She basked in the sun, bathed in the rain, swayed in the breeze, and danced in the wind. She grew and shed many millions of leaves. At last, the grand old tree was very, very old. Her branches no longer swayed and danced, but cracked and snapped in the wind. Finally, she fell, and snow gently covered her. What season do you think it is? If you said winter, you're right. The old tree died. She no longer flowered, bore fruit, or sowed seeds. But she was still home to many creatures. Raccoons nested in her trunk. Centipedes crawled through her branches. And lichen grew on her bark. The grand old tree slowly crumbled. She became part of the earth. Today, the roots of her grandchildren sink deep into this earth. Their arms reach high into the sky. They are home to many creatures. Just like the grand old tree. In the book, the grand old tree was home to many creatures. The tree helped the creatures by giving them a place to live. And the creatures helped the tree by spreading its seeds all over the land so that the tree could have children and grandchildren and keep living on. What we're going to do next is draw a picture of a tree. You will need paper and something to draw with. You can pause the video now to go get some paper and something to draw with. Okay, I have something to write with. I got some colors, some crayons to use as well. To start my tree, the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that my paper is not on its side, but it is with the long sides up and down, like a tall building. I'm going to start by drawing a line at the bottom of my paper, a straight line across. This will be my grass later when I'm ready to add my colors. So I have my straight line across my paper. Next, I'm going to draw my tree trunk. To draw my tree trunk, I'll start with one straight line down. I went about halfway up my paper and I drew it down to where my grass will be. Now you can decide, do you want your tree to have a really wide trunk, or do you want it to be a skinny tree and maybe you draw your lines closer together? I want my tree to have a wider trunk, so I'm going to do about 3 fingers and start my next line all the way down. I like to add branches to my trees. Let me show you a nice way to draw branches. I'm going to draw a line going out. And I'm going to draw another line close to it, also going out like that. And then in the middle, I'm going to draw something that looks like a V. And then I'll do the same thing on my other side. Straight line out. Another line next to it. Inside I have my V. Maybe I can add 1 or 2 more branches. I'll do another straight line, and my V. And how about 1 more? We have enough space. Straight line, and a V. Now that I have some branches, I'm going to add my leaves. So to start with my leaves, I'm going to draw it kind of like a cloud behind the branches. So I'll start here below my branch, and I will do some curved lines all the way around my branches. I may choose to connect my branches on the trunk, like that. Now my tree looks like it's ready for some color. Usually trees have a brown trunk, I'm going to get my brown crayon and start coloring in my tree trunk. When I color inside of my lines, I like to color everything so I don't leave any spots, because I call those peekaboos. We have some paper peeking through my color, so let me color in that peekaboo, and that makes it look more realistic. It makes it look like a real tree. I'm coloring up to my branches. After I color in my tree trunk, I'm going to color my leaves, and I'm going to use green, but maybe your tree is in the fall time, so maybe you would like to have orange and red and yellow leaves. In the winter time, if you're drawing a winter tree, you might not have any leaves. It's your choice. Your tree, your choice. You could even decide if you wanted to add a few creatures in your tree. Like in the book, I remember seeing birds, squirrels. I think we saw a raccoon, a caterpillar. An owl. I remember seeing an owl too. All right, I almost finished coloring in my leaves, and once I finish that, I'll go ahead and color in my grass, and then we'll almost be finished with our tree. Unless you want to add some more details like animals or a sky in the background. You could even draw yourself standing under your tree. Feel free to get creative. When I finish coloring and making sure that I've colored in all of my peekaboos and that I'm doing my best to stay in the lines, once I finish that, I'm going to add something a little extra to my beautiful illustration. After I finished reading the book, I went outside to check out the trees around my house, around my neighborhood, and I collected a few leaves. Here are some of the leaves that I found when I went outside. Some of them are similar and some of them are a bit different. I thought it would really make my beautiful artwork pop if I glued some leaves to my picture. So you can decide if you would like to use some glue or tape to add some leaves to your picture today. If you can't go outside or you don't want to add leaves, you don't have to. When you're all finished with your tree illustration, take a picture and send it to your teacher on Seesaw. Have fun!